For the Chicago Bears, the player that we need to keep below the numbers, Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah, I played with this guy for a short stint, and I understand exactly who he is, and he's matured so much since his rookie season. Now, especially this year, if you watch game one, he's making effective passes. He's dictating the offense instead of sitting back and kind of seeing what it's giving him. He's out there going and making plays happen, and he's got a supporting cast that can help him out a little bit. So he's definitely somebody we got to keep below the numbers this week.
The Giants' D-line have to be effective throughout the entire game. That's where the Lions failed in the fourth quarter. So it's going to be up to them to get that pressure to create those takeaways on the defensive side of the ball.
Carl, we're going to take a look at the Chicago Bears on offense. Mitchell Trubisky had an incredible fourth quarter as the Bears came back from a 17-point deficit. What do the Giants have to do to not make them feel comfortable?
Well, they've got to put pressure on him. You have to understand he is a mobile quarterback, but you have to be decisive and put pressure on him. If you lay back and do not coordinate your pass rush for pressure, he will have all the time in the world. Here's an example of that here, Bob. You have a defensive line who knows that he is a threat, and I'll play this. They know that he's a threat, but just look, there's no penetration. They're just mirroring the quarterback. There's just no way you can give the quarterback this much time. Just take a look. Look at the middle linebacker. You see your defensive end here. He just gives up on the play. And they just if he shuffles right, it's almost like he's a dance instructor. There's no penetration whatsoever. And the result of that, your defensive backs can't cover that long.
Carl, now we're going to take a look at, again, disciplined football. And I thought the Giants, under new defensive coordinator Patrick Graham last week, showed a lot more discipline defensively. Here's an example of where you better be disciplined.
Right, and that's called pass rush coordination. If you are an outside rusher and you know that there's a mobile quarterback, your number one goal is to get here and contain him and to force him back inside. But what does their guy do? He gets a free run at the quarterback. He doesn't keep him inside. He goes inside and the quarterback goes outside. You've got to be outside in on the quarterback. These are easy plays when you coordinate it correctly, because if I stop it here, he's supposed to be here. His shoulders should be here, and they're not. And as a result, he gets outflanked. Touchdown.
All right, Carl, let's go to the other side of the ball. Last week, the Giants dealt with the Steelers. Great pass rush. Mm-hmm. Chicago is no slouch, led by Khalil Mack. What do the Giants have to do better this week?
It's communication, to be honest with you, because the thing that bedeviled this offensive line last week, and they'll continue to see it, is movement, it's twists, it's things that will cause confusion. In this particular play, you'll see those three players highlighted, center and both guards. Their communication is going to come from some type of movement up here, and they've just got to be able to pass it off. But as we run this, you see the twist, freeze. Here's your twist, right there. Two guys take one. Let me bring it back. We'll run it again slow. Here's your twist. Center and guard, I'll freeze it. So you get two guys on one, and this guy comes free. Communication is very important.
And that's the matchup that we're definitely going to have to watch in this one. Anthony Miller, Allen Robinson. Anthony Miller doing a lot of work out of the slot. We know he was the one that scored the game-winning touchdown for the Chicago Bears. Shifty, clean in and out of his breaks, can generate power, quickness, and speed very quickly, and that's the way that he uses it out of that slot position. Wants to get that inside leverage, and he can stretch the field vertically and get those yards after catch.
Very good route runner and explosive player. They'll be going up against the Giants' top cornerback, James Bradberry, who plays outside, Dave. That means his primary matchup during the game could be Allen Robinson. This guy is a skyscraper. He can run. He's got good hands. There was a report earlier in the week that maybe he was going to demand the trade. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. He will be target number one for Mitch Trubisky on Sunday.
He will. Obviously, there is a lot of talk coming out of Chicago this week, but Allen Robinson is all set with a chip on his shoulder. He is great at the comeback routes. He's great at using the curls, but his biggest weapon is when he uses his big body to work the in-breaking routes. That's where he makes his hay. He's not the quickest player like Anthony Miller, but he creates deception and separation by his unique route running and his ability to sell, whether he's going in or out, getting a defensive back or the corner on his heels, and then being able to get by them.
Just a gigantic catch radius for a guy like Trubisky, who maybe not the most pinpoint accurate guy. It helps to have somebody like Robinson. You're James Bradberry. How do you deal with these two guys? What's your scheme? Do you think it's a lot of press man? Is it more of a cover two zone day for him? How do you think Bradberry handles these two guys?
I think when it comes to Allen Robinson, I think you want to play him, man. You want to be on him one-on-one, and we know James can excel at that, and his ability to break back on the football and get into that catch radius that we know Allen Robinson has. And then when you're playing up against Miller, that's where you might want to incorporate some more of the zone, because that way you can get safety help to work over with the slot, and that way you can really confine his yards after catch and his big home run playability.
The Giants traveled to Chicago, the land of Michael Jordan. Which player was more dominant in his respective sport? Michael Jordan or Lawrence Taylor?
Whew, both North Carolina guys, right?
Couple Tar Heels.
Boy. Michael Jordan.
Really? You're going to go Jordan?
I'm going Jordan.
What? Jordan is the GOAT, like they say, and I do like Michael Jordan, but you got LeBron James and all these guys coming along. I'm going to say right now, guys like yourself, Carl, and the great Lawrence Taylor, you guys revolutionized the game. They are forever looking for players that look like you guys, that are 6'5", that can run like that. Most of the guys that are that size today have their hand in the dirt. You guys changed football.
This is true.
So I'm going to have to go with Lawrence Taylor.
Lawrence Taylor did revolutionize how they played linebacker. I'm still going with Michael Jordan.
All right, well, the Giants are going to Chicago to face the Bears this week. And, of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't remember a game in 2010. Look at this, 10 sacks against the Bears. What do you remember about that game?
I remember this game vividly. I remember Jay Cutler picking himself up off the ground over and over and over and just looking at his offensive line like, what are y'all doing? Like, what? Can y'all help me just a little bit? But he was suffering that game. But I remember OC just having one of those games, whether he was sacking or pressuring or just getting around his guy as quickly as possible. These guys balled out.
Since the beginning of the 2018 season, Tariq Cohen is tied for third amongst NFL running backs with 152 pass receptions. Can you talk about the challenges in trying to keep him contained?
Yeah, I think he's one of those running backs that whenever he's on the field, he's kind of a wide receiver in that aspect. He obviously can do all the things in the run game, get on the edge, extremely fast, extremely elusive. Obviously a great punt returner, so when he does get the ball in offense and space, he's dangerous. And I think he's one of those guys that coaches talk about being everyone at the point of attack to get him on the ground and making sure we all as 11 are swarming to him and making sure we leverage him, whether he's inside the box or outside the box, catching screens or whatever he's doing on the field.
I've been to Soldier Field, and those fans are one of the louder fans or groups of fans that I've heard over my time in the NFL. From your perspective, do you think it will be somewhat helpful that you won't have to deal with that crowd noise in Chicago? It'll be your first road game of the season.
No, yeah, I think that's kind of the big talking point for this season is the away games. It kind of takes away that home field advantage a little bit. Soldier Field always is one of those kind of more rowdy fan groups throughout the game. They're always screaming, always yelling. So I think that will be a bonus to us being able to communicate throughout the whole entire game and have that ability to make those adjustments.